Bonjour everyone and welcome back to the Waves of Your Soul. I am your humble French tarot reader slash deck goblin marine, and today we are doing my top 10 oracle decks of 2024. Finally, this is it. This is the time where we are doing all the cool rankings, my favorite time of year. I love doing those kinds of videos for you guys because some year I make top 5, some years I make top 10. This year I decided to make a top 10 for both tarot and for oracle decks because there were so many amazing decks coming my way and I wanted to share them with you guys. So today you're gonna see a mix of mass market oracle decks, indie oracle decks. There's gonna be a bit of everything, a bit for every budget, and all the names of the decks are gonna be in the description box below. I always get questioned, but you guys, it's in the description box. I spend way too much of my time creating those description box for you to not click on them and have a look, okay? Please. If I get another "what name is that deck" comment, I will implode and turn into a dragon. So for the love of God, please, if you are wondering what the names of the decks I'm mentioning today, it's in the description box. Down there, you will also find my social media link. If you want to hang out, you find me on YouTube and on Instagram mostly these days. You will also see playlist videos you may want to check out at the moment of me filming, as you might guess from my little Christmassy ring. We are deep into Tarot Vlogmas, meaning that I am spoiling you with lots of contents all months of December. There is so much going on. We have Tarot and Oracle deck related content. We have fairy tale themed pick a card. I'm trying to bring a bit more magic to your months. There is so much going on. We have my top 10 tarot decks if you've not checked that out. Plenty of content for you to get occupied for the holidays. Little disclaimer before I start ranking them. First up, I'm gonna be ranking these oracle decks only because I'm a glutton for punishment and I like to make my life harder. These rankings don't really mean anything. If a deck made it to top 10, excellent, I believe in them. I think all of these are great. This is just a fun exercise, so I don't want you to pay too much attention to the ranking. It's more for me to make these fun. Not all of these decks came out in 2024. Some of them have been out there for much longer, but they were new to me in 2024, so that's why they're making the ranking. Second thing is that I really did not approach this video as the top 10 oracle decks that I would recommend to the general public, but really the top 10 oracle decks that touched my heart, made me think differently, expanded my practice, brought another lens to my cartomancy practice, to my readings. So it's really more about how it affected me, touched my heart, expanded my views, challenged me in a good way, got me outside of my comfort zone. Those are all the reasons why a deck would be in a top 10, not necessarily a recommendation for everyone out there. So I just wanted you to understand this is very biased, very personal. The last little bit of disclaimer, if you're new, you should know I'm a huge chaotic deck goblin. That means that my taste is very eclectic, very varied. You're gonna see that today. So just prepare yourself for potential whiplash as we're gonna get decks very varied, different. We're gonna go to all the extremes of the spectrum, from very dark decks to very cutesy decks, from very traditional decks to very modern decks. Prepare yourself, put your seatbelt on, and without further ado, let's get into it. Let's look at my top 10 oracle decks of 2024. Let's do this. So this year, it was actually easier for me to rank my oracle decks than it was my tarot decks. When I ranked my tarot decks, I really felt like I was having arguments in my head every night, trying to not make it a top 20 and narrow it down to a top 10, to the point where I thought it was going to end up being a golem versus Smeagol kind of situation, as I couldn't stop arguing with myself. For oracle decks, weirdly, it was much easier. One of the reasons being I got way less oracle decks this year than tarot. That's just the way the cookie crumbled, so in that sense it was easier to rank them. The other reason is that when they arrived and when I started working with them, it was very clear where they would rank, how much I used them, all of that, and I appreciate that for my own well-being. So we're gonna start with honorary mentions. I make honorary mentions for a few different reasons. Mainly, honorary mentions are for decks that either didn't make the top 10 for a reason or another that I will tell you now, but that I think this still deserves a shout out because they're still great decks. Or the other reason is that I potentially got them later in the year and I have a cutoff date I give myself for making my top 10s. I don't really count anything that comes after mid-November because it doesn't feel fair. I wouldn't have much time to work with these as I would from decks I've got earlier in the year because my opinion would be so fresh versus a deck that I've worked earlier in the year, so it might muddle things up. Just does not feel fair to include decks that I've gotten too recently. The first one I wanted to shout at that still I think deserves an honorary mention, but that makes the top 10 is this one. We have the Night Fairies by Paolo Barbieri. This is a Los Scarabeo deck, and this is fabulous. It's beautiful. The only reason it did not make the top 10 is because this is like 32 cards, I think. Yeah, 32 cards. And I'm a greedy bitch, okay? I'm very aware. Me, 32 cards is not enough. Like, I want more. I want more, especially when it's from this gorgeous artwork. So this is a beautiful Fae-inspired deck. With each of the cards, we have a fairy, we have an animal. It has been used a lot for me this year. I've paired it with my Lost Forest Tarot, which together they are perfection. But 32 cards, you guys, especially if I want to pair this with tarot, and because this is such a gorgeous artwork, I would like more. I've enjoyed using this a lot. I'm still enjoying using this in December actually, because something about this is giving, I don't know, end of year liminal vibes. Beautiful fairy deck. I just had hoped for more cards, which is the only reason why it did not wreck the top 10, but if you can get this at a good price, I don't think you would be disappointed. The guidebook is really well thought out. We have some invocation, we have a meditation, we have an affirmation, and we have some actionable steps. So truly a lot of thought was put out behind this guidebook. A well thought out deck. Guidebook is great. The artwork is beautiful. I don't think you would be disappointed if you can get this on a good price. For personal preferences, I do prefer decks that have more cards though, so 32 feels a little small for me, but again, that's just personal preferences. Another honorary mention is a deck that I really enjoyed this year, but I ended up using the app more than the actual deck, so that's why I didn't know where to put it in my top 10, so I just thought I'd put it in my honorary mention. This is a deck I've talked a lot about on my channel that seems to be very popular now as well. It's getting more interest and stuff from the community. We have the Rainbow Brain Skull. This is a really cool deck. Either get on paper form or you can get the app. I've used both, I've enjoyed both, but I've realized in my day-to-day that I ended up relying on the app more. Like every day I was pulling a little card, and it was great that way. And normally I'm a huge card lover, you know that, I'm a huge deck goblin, but somehow with this one, I don't know, maybe because it feels like a little bit futuristic and really cool, I ended up putting it on my phone when I was like waiting for something. I don't know, when I was in the queue, when I was in a waiting room, whatever. I was like putting my little card on my app. Still think the paper format is great. Obviously I love the artwork, I love this artist specifically. Ramina Razor, I believe the artist is. Their Instagram is really cool. This is now, I have the indie version, but now you can get this deck mass market, so if you want to get this, it's really fairly affordable now, which is great. A lot more people can get their hands on it. This is very futuristic. It's very kind of like gamify your life. The messages are really meant to give you a kick up the butt or remind you that you have power. Everything here is really linked to what version of yourself do you want to be, what kind of version of life do you want to be living, what do you want to create, you know, taking back control over your life. What it looks very futuristic and video game vibes, the messages are quite profound, and I really vibe with the messages of this deck. I really enjoy this deck a lot, and I can see myself continuing to use this a lot next year. I can see this over time becoming a very much a workhorse, and if you don't want to invest in the deck, like I said, you can get the app, so it's great. We have both a unique perspective. The messages are really unique. Look, we have imagination and reality are scheduled to be inverted. Maker is only job in the final future. We have just cause they put a square on your head doesn't mean you're not still in school. Good night, also you didn't get enough done today. This is very cheeky, but it's also more profound than you think. Like, the point of sleep is to let it all go. Everything here is around reminding you that you have more power than you think, and also kind of check in with the fact that sometimes we get bogged down by things that maybe don't matter so much. So this is great. It's really smart. If you are curious about it, I encourage you to check out the Instagram from Ramina Razor, as they post a lot of like artwork and stuff, and you'll understand straight away the kind of vibe. The last two honorary mentions are decks that arrived too late for me to put them in my 2024 top 10. Every year I give myself a cutoff date, like I was saying. Anything that comes after, it doesn't really feel just to include in the top 10, as I've not worked with them as extensively as other decks I'm gonna share with you in the ranking. These still absolutely deserve a shout out because they've made my end of year so much brighter and happier. So the first one that kind of missed the cutoff date, but that is still a fantastic deck, I had to talk about it with you guys. I have the Little Ghost Oracle. This is an indie deck by Celia Melville, who is a French creator, but this is a bilingual, so the guidebook and the cards are in English and in French, which we love. You can see one side of the guidebook is in French, the other side is in English. For the guidebook, you get good messages, you get keywords, you get timing, so if you want to use temporality in your readings, you can, which is really cool. And you get like a little paragraph. Enjoy the guidebook. I don't really rely on it because the artwork is so intuitive and the keywords are so relatable to day that I found myself putting this one and really not needing the guidebook, but I'm glad it's there. So first up, can we talk about those gorgeous backings? So sweet. We have some silver edges, and then in terms of the artwork, a lot of you are going to be familiar with Celia's artwork, I'm sure. And for this one, as the name suggests, the Little Ghost Oracle, it is showing little ghosts living their day-to-day life in absolutely very relatable day-to-day situations, like they are cooking, they are dressing themselves, they are reading. Makes this deck a fantastic day-to-day oracle deck. I realized I've pulled this a lot since mid-November that I got this. My go-to until the end of the year. It feels also very Christmassy December because there are a lot of wintry cards, whilst not all of them. Like, I think you could use this all year long, absolutely. But when I get this, come on, this is making me want to live my winter fantasy, right? And look at this. And for those of you who don't know, I live on a tropical island, so right now it's summertime where I live. It's super hot. This deck also helps me to live my little winter wonderland fantasy at this time of year when I want to build snowmen, but outside it's giving more mangoes and mosquito vibes. So this also allows me to live my little winter wonderland fantasy. And like I said, the art style is obviously wonderful and brings me joy, but the keywords are very good, very like simple. I think this is a great beginner's deck if you wanted to give a gift to someone, and I think this would be great for all ages. I think honestly, maybe not too little, because there are like a couple, maybe one card that's a little bit scary, but you know, I would say teenagers onward, probably people would really enjoy this as a gift, even if as their first deck, because the keyword feel very like relatable day to day. Here we have bonding, here we have time. They're not very complicated esoteric concepts. They are things that relate to our day-to-day life. We have perspective. So I think this deck is super accessible, easy to use, super beginner friendly, great for daily card pulls. I really enjoyed this one in my readings for you guys. I've enjoyed it for me, putting a card every day, reflecting on it. It's simple, it's straight to the point, but it's cute. So what more do you need, right? So love this little deck, and I wanted to shout it out. Whilst it arrived too late to make my top 10, it definitely is making this end of the year a lot more magical. Honorary mention is gonna be no surprise to those of you who watch my recent videos, and again, this one arrived to me too late to make the cutoff point, because I think I got this either right at the end of November or right at the beginning of December. We have to talk about the Little Frog's Guide to Self-Care. This is a mass market deck, 52 affirmation card for self-love and empowerment. Guys, I've shared this on a couple of videos recently. I got hundreds, I'm not kidding, hundreds of comments, DMs, emails, messages on Instagram from you guys saying, as soon as you saw this on my channel, you got this for friends, for family, for Christmas gift. It's crazy how much you guys think to have loved this. And you know what? I understand, because I love this myself, and I'm gifting this to a couple of my friends this Christmas because it's just the perfect gift. It's just so great. So it makes me happy that so many of you found this on my channel and decided to spread the joy, as this is a really affordable deck. It has a lot of cards, like I said, 52 cards. You could pull a card a week. It comes with, I've put it away now, it's on my altar, but it comes with this, a little wooden stand that you can use. In terms of price for what you get, fantastic. I don't have anything bad to say. This is all about this cute ass frog who is giving you affirmations and mantras every single card. And not only is this adorable, because I mean, come on, look at this. It's adorable. The shoes, the mushroom hat, we live. But also, the affirmations in this are a lot deeper than I expected. I honestly bought this sight unseen. I was ordering some books and I needed my basket to make a certain amount so I could get international shipping. I was looking for a cool affirmation deck. I saw the box, I added it to my cart. When I discovered this, straight away I shared it with you guys. And it kind of created this huge, like I said, like domino effect, as so many of you then started to order it. And I personally am also very obsessed with this myself. I am using this every single day. I've used it in every single one of my paid readings pretty much that I've made since I've received this for you guys, your head readings. I have pulled cards for friends, pick a card reading. This is amazing. And it's the best mix for me of cuteness, of sass, of joy, and of depth, because a lot of the mantras and affirmation are actually quite deep and profound. Look, my pain can be transformed, my trauma can be transformed, my anger can be transformed. Yes, thank you, little frog. I am on my own timeline. I will not compare my journey to anyone else's. It's so good, you guys. It's beautiful. I forgive myself. This is for me the perfect gift. I mean, literally, I'm giving this to so many of my friends for Christmas. It's super sweet. The only reason why it's not in my top 10 is because I received it right at the end of 2024. But you can bet you will see this in 2025. In all of my pick a card readings, all of that, to wrap up the reading, to get a little affirmation. And I think they've done a great job of marrying this artist's absolutely adorable style with very powerful and good mantras, actual mantras you can carry with you. So, affirmation message. What do we need to know for everyone watching? What's our affirmation for the week? I am not my past. I love that, especially as we are moving away from 2024 into 2025. We can remember we get to start new anytime we want, not just on New Year's Eve. Every single day we can start anew. I love that. And look at those green boots. Come on, green boots. Okay, it's time to start the ranking. Of course, we're gonna start at number 10. At number 10, we have the first of many divinatory oracle decks this year. 2024 was the year I discovered some great decks that I love to use for divination, predictive reading, fortune telling, looking at the vibes of the week ahead, of the months ahead, all of that. So there's gonna be a few options of those. The first one is this beast, okay? She is chunky. I keep this in the bag because it did not come with a box, but this is called the Breath of the Night Oracle, and it's 100 cards deck, you guys. 100 cards. And this is originally a Russian deck, so you're gonna see on the name, on the cards, you have the name in English and the name in Russian. And the person I got this from on Etsy, you could choose the size that you wanted to. So I got the tarot size, but you could get this as more pocket size if you have smaller hands, if you have arthritis in your hands or anything like that. I have orc hands, I say that all the time, but I have huge hands, you guys. I don't have little demure princess hands, that's not me. If I slap you, you will get jumped into another dimension because my hands are huge. So don't get fooled. This is quite large, but you can get this smaller. The cardstock is very glossy. That's something I always say. For those of you who don't like plasticky cardstock, forget about it, because this is very, very glossy. So this is an Oracle and Lenormand hybrid, meaning that you have all of the cards related to a traditional Lenormand deck. Like here we have Garden, for example. Top of the traditional Lenormand cards, you also have a lot of other concepts that have been added. And honestly, this is amazing, amazing, amazing deck. If you want to do fortune telling, traditional divination, you know, pure divination. Here we're talking about to peek through the veil. If you want to look at the months ahead, if you want to find out what's going to happen at work, if you're wanting to, you know, very much like a Lenormand, but bigger, broader, wider. If you want to use your intuition to predict the future or try to look at the energies of, like I was saying, week ahead, months ahead. If you want to do some divination, this is amazing. Specifically, if you enjoy this type of artwork, which is quite spooky, quite dark, and I love this. I love this so much, which is why it's part of my top 10. The only reason why it's not higher is because there are other divination decks that I've fallen even more in love with. So I ended up putting this on the side a little bit. For like, I use this a lot for the first half of the year, and then the second half of the year I was using other ones that really blew me away. So this is why this is not higher. However, this is a deck I can see myself continuing to use for years to come. For monthly readings on my channel, pick a card readings, things like that. This is great. It's a 100 card deck. You do what you want, boo. You do you. If you want to only pick certain cards, you can. If you want to remove the Lenormand and do one Lenormand and one Oracle, you can. I love these kinds of decks. They are super fun, super exciting for me. This is like, I feel like it's a playground for my intuition. And there is a guidebook. You can get a PDF. The seller can send you a PDF, which is also really interesting because the PDF is quite rich with a lot of like explanation, as some of these cards refer to Russian lore and things like that. Absolutely fantastic. If you're looking for a chunky deck to use in your intuitive readings, in your divinatory readings, and you like this kind of like fantastical, a little bit spooky vibes, witchy vibes, then I don't think you would be disappointed with this one. At number 9, we have a great mass market oracle deck called the Citadel Oracle, which I got this year, but I think it came out last year. I mean, I got this way after everyone, so this might be from 2023. I can't remember. I don't know, you guys. What is time but a social construct? I'm confused all the time. This is by Phase Inkwright. It's by the publishers are Sterling Ethos. Like I said, you can get this mass market. Here are the backs of the cards, and this is so cool. Like the shape, the artwork is really cool, and the concept is really unique, as this is a fantasy-based oracle deck, which is my jam. You guys might know I'm a huge fantasy lover. I read mostly fantasy books. I watch mostly fantasy movies and TV shows, video games. Fantasy is my jam. So this is everything I love. The only reason why it's not higher is because I feel like I'm still scratching the surface with this one. It's like, this is so cool, I really enjoy it, but I feel like I'm still getting to know it. The guidebook is quite chunky and really well written. For each of the cards, you get the name of the archetype. This is truly an archetypal kind of deck, but basing itself around, I would say, characters or professions or kinds of people that you could meet playing RPGs or playing fantasy video games or reading fantasy books. So here we have the Herald, for example, which is a common archetype in RPGs, in fantasy books, all of those, and you will have always your meaning, a reverse meaning as well. The way this is written is both with an oracular point of view, meaning that there is a guidance message there, usually here towards the bottom, like this part, and the reversed is more guidance kind of messages, but the top part is more written in the sense of role-playing. The way that you can use this deck is both as an oracle and as a way to create characters or campaigns for your role-playing games. And it explains in the foreword from the author that they love Dungeons and Dragons, they love this kind of role-playing vibe. You can use this both as an oracle, as your given spreads, for example, which are great, but you can also use this for role-playing games, building campaigns. Here we have built an encounter, for example. So for anyone who loves Dungeons and Dragons, any one of my gamers out there, you probably would really enjoy this. I will say, if you are not into fantasy, probably this is not the deck for you, as the archetypes are very obviously focused on fantasy books, fantasy video games, tropes and kind of beings and kind of professions that you would be more familiar with if you enjoy this kind of fantasy world, right? So if you really are not someone who loves fantasy, this is not the kind of deck for you. For me, because this is my jam, I love this. The only reason why this is not higher, honestly, is because I feel like I'm still getting to know this. I feel like I'm only scratching the surface. I love fantasy so much. It's a way that I relate to a lot of things, and I love using fantasy in my tarot spreads, inspiring myself from books I read, video games I play, movies I watch, stuff like that. This is really good for me. It's a great deck for me, and yet I feel like there is so much more I could do with this than I've done. So I feel like I'm just scratching the surface, if that makes sense. And it's a deck I think in 2025 I could really get more from, because this is so me. I need to go deeper. I feel like I've enjoyed using this a lot. I've pulled a card from me every month, I think, to work with that archetype. I've pulled cards from other people as well. I mostly rely on the guidebook at the moment, but of course you have keywords here, you could pull that intuitively as well. But I still feel like I'm only scratching the surface, and I know that there's so much more I could do with this. I think you guys are gonna see this a lot more next year, as I have ideas of pick a card readings I want to do that are fantasy themes. I don't want to say too much because I want to keep it bit a surprise, but I think it's gonna be great. Not me tooting my own horn. Toot toot. No, I think I've got ideas, yeah. For unique pick a card readings coming next year on the channel, and I want to use this one, so you're gonna see this a lot more. It's gonna be fun, but for now I feel like I'm only scratching the surface, so that's why it's not higher. But honestly, if you like fantasy, if you like Dungeons and Dragons, if you like video games like Baldur's Gate and all of those stuff, pretty confident that you would enjoy this. So that is the Citadel Oracle, and for my French viewers, this was translated in French, so you can get this French mass market as well. Number 8, we have a deck that has really surprised me and blew me away, honestly. This is the Earth and Bone Oracle by Syrian Shadow. This is another mass market deck. I'm really happy because I have a lot of mass market options for my Oracle deck this year, so I'm glad that it means that even if you're on a lower budget, there's definitely some decks there that you could treat yourself to and have a good time with. So Earth and Bone Oracle by Syrian Shadow, this is a Rockpool publishing deck. It has how many cards? 42 cards. See, already 42, I'm like, okay, this is better. Mostly, I would say, right now, the standard seems to be between 40-44 cards. Although, for me, the more cards, the better. 100 card deck is like my kryptonite, you know. Here is the guidebook. The guidebook is really well thought out. For each of the cards, we have keywords, we have a message, and we have an affirmation. And this is a deck that really blew me away. I've talked about this deck in quite a few videos recently. Mostly, if you watch my most surprising decks of the year, you will have seen this. So when I originally found out about this deck, I always thought the artwork was beautiful, but I thought because everything is skulls and bones and, you know, Earth and Bones Oracle, I really thought this would be a shadow work deck. I thought, okay, this, you know, it looks a bit creepy and dark and spooky. This is gonna be a deck for looking at things that we don't want to look at. Maybe having a peek at our metaphorical basement, see what's hiding there, any fears, any blockages. That is what I thought this deck would be. What I did not realize until I finally got my hands on the deck and I started to work with it, this is a lot lighter and a lot kinder and a lot gentler than it looks. Like, the vibe is spooky and dark, right? But the energy, the egregore, and the messages in the guidebook are so full of life. So this really straddles this idea of death and life cycle. The messages are very empowering, very light in energy, very beautiful. I was surprised by the dichotomy between what it looks and the way it reads. Like, it looks like it's the kind of deck that's gonna help you go with deeper and look at your shadows, but the energy of it and the messages are very empowering and very like comforting even, which I did not expect from something to look like this. I love that we have keywords on the cards. That means that you get 3 as well, plus the top one, so you really can use this without the guidebook if you don't want to. But the guidebook has really brought me wonderful reading. I loved using this one for myself mostly. I don't think I've used this in pick a card reading, any other reading for other people. I think I've kept this for myself because I really bonded with this. It brought me at a time where I was not feeling so great. It really met me where I was and brought me a lot of comfort, which I did not expect from something that looks so spooky and a little bit creepy. So this was a great surprise. It deserves its spot in my top 10 because I use this a lot. I really love this one. I think if you are remotely interested in this, give it a shot. I don't think you'll be disappointed. It's a really great written, versatile deck you can use for introspection, you can use for guidance. This is not so much, I would say, a divinatory type of oracle deck, more one for like self-care, introspection, things like that. You get a little bit of an affirmation at the end, and of course, if you enjoy this type of imagery, even better. Really great deck here by Syrian Shadow, the Earth and Bone Oracle. Another one that you can find now translated mass market in French for all of my French viewers. We love it. At number 7, we have the Oracle of the Mythic Heroes by Leta Wang, illustrated by Rosang Zouali and Ajun Guo. This is a mass market deck. It's by Beyond Words. It's a Greek mythology inspired deck, which, as some of you guys may know, I'm a huge mythology fan, specifically Greek and Egyptian mythology. That's my jam. So this is a theme that I really enjoy. And this was actually sent to me for review. So all of the other decks I bought myself. This one was sent by Leta for review. So just want to be very honest with you guys. Regardless, the opinions are still very much my own. Honestly, if it hadn't been sent to me, me for review, I would have purchased it myself because I think it's really great. So I wanted to put it in my top 10. It absolutely deserves its spot there. Lê Tao is an astrologer and a tarot reader. He has a YouTube channel here. I'll make sure to leave it down below. There's two reasons why this deck it belongs in my top 10 and why I enjoy this so much this year. The first thing is the theming. We're talking here about Greek mythology hero and heroines, and that's not something we see a lot of. We are used to seeing like divinity decks that focus on gods and goddesses. It's rarer to see decks focused on other characters of the story, the heroes, the heroines, all of those other kind of people. The way that this is set up is that this is astrology based, meaning that for each of the signs you have 3 cards. So for example, for Aries you have Theseus linked to leadership, you have Bellerophon linked to impatience, and you have Achilles linked to confidence. So for all of the signs you have a more neutral card, a more, I would say, negative card, and a more positive card. And I've done a whole review about this deck. If you want to know more, I'll leave it in the cards because I've done a dedicated video, so I won't say too much about this here as we have a lot of decks to go through. But the astrology behind it is really cool, as it helped me, someone who's not very good at astrology, to understand more. You could use this for the Deacon Walk, obviously, because it relates to Deacon. I love that on each of the cards we have a different keyword. I love that we can work both with the keyword and the story for those of you who are familiar with Greek mythology. Even if you don't know anything about Greek mythology, the guidebook will help you out, as this is honestly one of the best guidebooks I worked with all year, which is why I really wanted to bring this in my top 10, because the guidebook that Lê Tao has done for us is fantastic. For each of the card you will have, so like I said, you have the Deacon, you have the date, you have the astrological association to a planet, and you have a crystal. Then you have an explanation about the myth, usually 2, 3, 4 pages sometimes, about who this is. And finally you have the teaching, and the teaching is both the guidance but also a practical day-to-day example that relates to a reading that Lê Tao did, that relates back to day-to-day life. A client he had, someone he was reading the cards for, that got this card in a real life situation, and so it helps you to bring these Greek archetypes back to our life, back to something we can actually relate to, whether it was a work reading, a love reading, whatever. Lê Tao will give you a practical example of how this card came up, and I thought that was fantastic. I wish more authors did that because it really helps you to apply this concept to day-to-day life. I think so much work has been put into it. I love the astrology, learning more about it. I love the theming, Greek mythology, the guidebook, like I said, one of the best guidebooks I worked with this year. I think the artwork is beautiful. We have a good balance between male figures, female figures. It's great. Honestly, I don't have anything bad to say about this, and I know a lot of us enjoyed this one this year. So that's the Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. At number 6 we have a small but mighty deck. Let's talk about the Extraordinary Incantation by Practical Magic. This is a indie deck, a tarot oracle, I would say. So this honestly could have been put in my top 10 tarot decks, but because I use this as an oracle, I decided to put this in my oracle deck. This is by a creator from the Philippines, Practical Magic. I have a couple of decks from them and I really love what they do. I got this one after the recommendation from one of my friends here on YouTube, Cassandra, who has a channel, a Riffle in Time, but also a tarot shop based in the US. So I will make sure to leave Cassandra's shop down below. This is where I purchased this deck. She stocks quite a few indie decks. I'm not sponsored or anything. She's just a sweetie. I just like to mention where I get my decks from. And so she was the one that introduced me to this deck. She was talking about it on her channel, and as soon as I saw it I was like, yeah, this is very me. This has me written all over. I have a love for a lot of different oracle decks. I love, as you will see and continue to see, divination oracle decks, decks for fortune telling. I love self-care decks. I love affirmation. So my taste is quite varied, but the vibe of this is very me. First, the fact that it's a tarot and oracle hybrid, meaning that on each of the cards you have both the tarot name and an affirmation, or what they call an incantation. I thought was really cool because you can use this both as a tarot and an oracle. I've used it both ways. I loved using it as a tarot, but I've ended up using it more as an oracle, which is why I wanted to put it in this particular ranking. I've ended up using this so much since I've gotten it for like pairing with tarot, wrapping up a reading, creating spreads as well. Like I would pull a few cards and then I would cover them with another tarot and create spreads around it. This is so versatile. It's a small but mighty deck. It's almost like a little pocket Swiss knife, you know. You can do so many things with this. You can use this as a tarot, you can use it this as an oracle, you can build spread, you can use this for affirmation, you can either pair it with tarot, clarify your reading with it, do daily draws with it, or do larger spreads with it. I'm sure you're gonna see this a lot again next year in my pick a card reading. If for any of you who booked year ahead readings with me, I use this. A lot of you guys as well, as to give you a little affirmation. Between this one and the frog ones, they're like my go-to for affirmation right now, and I'm really glad I decided to get this year. We're halfway through. Let's move on to number 5. At number 5, I have a French indie oracle deck. This is the l'Oracle d'Isa Watt. Isa Watt is a French artist. She sells her decks directly on her website. Very affordable for indie decks. One of the most affordable that I've bought this year indie. We love that. Here is the name of the deck. As you can see, very affordable for an indie deck. And this is another one that, look at this. Look at this, you guys. We love it. Chunky, many cards, many options. Thank you. Thank you so much for this. This is goals right here. It's dreams, okay? For a greedy bitch like me, is like heaven. Okay. So it comes with this little guidebook. You can feel like this is very handmade, and I love that because I don't think this is printed in big quantities or anything, and yet this is fantastic. This is not very well known. Even in my French YouTube tarot tubers, I don't see a lot of people talking about this, and yet I think this is great. So I wanted to mention it, especially as I really enjoyed it this year. It's in French, obviously, as you can see. For each of the cards you have a couple of sentences, and we have here, I can't remember how many cards. It's that many cards. I can't be bothered to count, but as you can see, we have a lot. We have a lot here. Originally, this was created by Isa to be a love/interpersonal relationship kind of deck, a deck meant to explore romantic relationships, love, interpersonal relationships, and all of that. But personally, the way I've used it is a lot broader than that, and I've enjoyed using this for pretty much, again, anything divinatory, predictive, anything to look at the week ahead, the months ahead, trying to peek through the veils, trying to understand what could potentially happen. And not just in the love realm, but for anything like work, it works great. For personal day-to-day life, it works great. I've done readings on anything with this for my friends specifically. Like, I remember doing a reading for a friend that had their car breaking down and they wanted to find out what was going to happen there. Like another one for one of my friends who had some changes at work and she wanted to find out what was gonna happen for her at work, and this worked great. I mean, whilst this was originally made for romantic love kind of reading, I really think that you could use it for anything, as I have used this for anything. Any kind of day-to-day reading, practical day-to-day life. You know, you want to find out what's gonna happen, you want to do a bit of divination. This is fantastic. As you can see, we have the keyword, we have the image, and we have the keywords, and the keywords are in French, but even if you don't speak French, I don't think you would have any trouble using this, because what you see on the cards is the keyword. So here we have maple, for example. Here we have the young horse. Here we have the chrysalis, for example. We have aloe vera. This is confusion, this is the snail, this is the ghost. So for most of the card, I would say 90% of the card, what you see is the keyword. In that sense, it's a very intuitive deck. If you guys don't like to work with your intuition, if you want something that's going to hold your hand, maybe this is not the best one, as yes, there is a guidebook, so you could use that, but as I think the way that this things the most is using your intuition. But if you are willing to make your own meanings behind each of the card, and you feel like this could be something kind of like Breath of the Night, right? Obviously very different artwork, but similar vibes, where you have to use your intuition, make your own meanings related to this concept. And for me, super intuitive. I mean, this is a choice you understand straight away. You have two doors. I love this art style. I call it naive in the best way possible, because for me it's like a compliment. I think it's really adorable, really sweet. It's beautiful as well. It's just tender and gentle. So whilst the Breath of the Night feels a little bit more spooky and dark, this feels a lot lighter. So, and yet they both serve similar purpose. So I guess it's gonna depend on what your vibe is, what your preference is, aesthetic wise, etc. For me, they're both equally good, but I enjoy both of them. They just are very different, like aesthetic, but in my practice they serve similar type of reading, divinatory style reading. Great for months ahead, week ahead. You're gonna see this a lot in my pick a card reading next year. I've already used it, I think this year even for some monthly readings, I'm pretty sure. Sadly, this is not a deck that a lot of people know about, and it's a shame because I think it's really versatile, useful, lots of cards. Again, you can make this your own. I've enjoyed using this a lot this year, and as you can see, the size is smaller. If I compare to like tarot size, for example, which is this one, you can see this one is much smaller. So if I have any of you guys who have smaller hands, or you have like pain in your hands, you struggle shuffling bigger decks, I don't think you'll have any problem with this. It has a lot of cards, but the smaller size makes it easy to shuffle. Let's move on to number 4. I told you guys that the theme of this year was divinatory oracle. They are a kind of oracle that I love, using oracle for fortune telling, for predictive reading, for looking at the vibes of the week ahead, the months ahead, and I literally have 4 in my rankings today. This is the 3rd one. Last one will be even more high up, but the number 4 of my ranking and number 3 of those divination kind of decks is honestly a deck that is very popular in the community that I came to way later than everyone else. We have the Memento Mori Oracle by Clear Goodchild or Black and the Moon. This is an indie oracle deck. It's been out for years. I'm definitely one of the last people to get my hands on this. You know what? Better late than never. And I am so glad I can finally work with this. As you can see from the box, this is another Lenormand and Oracle hybrid. As you've seen already from my rankings, I dig those, okay? I love me a Lenoracle. Anything that mixes Lenormand and Oracle, anything that has a lot of cards, anything that gives me plenty of options is my jam, and this one is no exception. We don't have a huge guidebook, it's quite small, but it's definitely enough. For each of the cards you have a few keywords, and I found that this was great to help you get acquainted with the deck, but I ended up not really relying on the guidebook with this one at all because I found that it was a super intuitive deck. And I feel like a lot of you guys will be familiar with Claire Goodchild's artwork, as she's the creator of a tarot deck. She's a creator of a few oracle decks. With this one we have expansion packs, I believe. There's quite a few decks from this creator and very recognizable artwork. Every time we have these very anatomical, kind of Victorian, apothecary, curiosity cabinet kind of images mixed with botanicals and flowers, and it makes for this really striking and unique art style that is very hers, and I love that. I love it when an artist has their unique taste, their unique, like, you know, point of view. This is another deck that really surprised me this year because when I ordered this really early on in the year in advance, because I knew I wanted to use this for like Samhain, Halloween kind of time. Originally when I ordered this, I thought I was gonna be using this for mostly ancestral readings. This was the vibe it was giving me, and it was what everyone else was saying, that it was great for ancestral readings, for communicating with your past loved ones, all of that. So that's why I originally wanted to use it for. And I did. Around Samhain I did some readings with this and it was amazing. So fluid. I really loved the readings I did around Samhain and Halloween, connecting with my ancestors, connecting with past loved ones. What I did not expect, and in the way in which this deck surprised me, is that this is also a great general divinatory deck. I really love using this one for anything, not just ancestral readings or mediumship readings, trying to connect with past loved ones, but also, again, very fortune-telling style, months ahead, week ahead, trying to predict what's gonna happen, medical appointment, whatever questions you may have, day-to-day practical things that you want to find out. This is great. It's fully intuitively, and I found every single reading I've done with this so clear, like literally crystal clear. It's one of my best reader of the year, this one. I've not had one bad reading. You know, sometimes you use a deck and you move away from the reading and you're like, I'm not sure what you meant. Maybe it was me, maybe like the communication wasn't great, you know, maybe there was some noise on the line, you weren't getting the good Wi-Fi reception, but sometimes you move away from readings and you're like, I'm not really sure what I can take away from this. This one, every time I've used it, ever since I've gotten this towards the end of October, I've had fantastic, clear, concise, no bullshit readings. This is a sniper. It will tell you exactly what you need to hear. 3-4 cards done. You can move on with your day and you got your answer. And I really love that about it. It really is one of the best readers for me, oracle wise, of the year. The only reason it's not higher is because I got this, like I said, end of October, so quite later in the year. It still made the cut, which is why it's part of my top 10. But honestly, if I had more time to work with this, it could have potentially made top 3 it really could have, because after only having it for like 3 months, it's already at top 4. So you can imagine what it would be like after a year or so using this. I can see this becoming a workhorse for me. I'm sure you're gonna see this a lot in my readings next year. Yeah, for me this could become one of those go-to oracle decks that I use for everything and anything. It's so great. With the Lenormand, you can separate the Lenormand from the oracle. I mix it all in because I love a hybrid deck myself, but I love that we get the freedom to do what we want. It's just great. I know I'm not the only one. This is very popular in the community, and now that I finally have my hands on it, I can see why. So that's the Memento Mori. And you guys, we are here. It's top 3. We are at the podium, and now we're starting to hand medals. So this is where it gets serious, okay? This one truly has become my go-to self-care deck for 2024. It helped me through tough times. It brought me a lot of comfort, a lot of healing. And if you're looking for a hug in a deck, I think this is a fantastic option. And we have the I'm Here Oracle by Murphy Pines. This is an indie deck, 50 card deck. Originally this was a Kickstarter, which I missed. I don't know what I was doing, but you know, sometimes I'm behind, you guys. You know that I'm in my own little world. I'm living in my own little island on my own timeline, and sometimes decks are like coming out on Kickstarter and they're really popular, and I'm like 2 years later like, oh yeah, this looks good. This is one of those. So missed the Kickstarter, whatever, and decided this year to order this directly from the artist, which I could at the time. I hope this is still available. I didn't check actually, so fingers crossed this is still available at the time of me filming. I ordered this directly from the artist. Small but powerful. For each of the cards you have your messages, again very self-care, very self-love kind of vibe, and then on the other side for each of the cards you have journaling and action prompts which talk about meditation, visualization. We have journaling prompt. We have healing modalities. This is fantastic if you're looking for something very like centered around helping you heal, helping you through some big feelings, helping you to kind of meet you where you are. This is really a deck that I found very helpful for that. Like I was saying, a hug in a deck. So for each of the cards you have these little beings, which I find absolutely enchanting, and which I've discovered from using this deck, not just for me but for other people as well, that everyone can relate to it, because it feels like you're looking at soul here, you're looking at spirit. It doesn't matter the age, the ethnicity, whatever of the person in front of you. These little spirit beings really are relatable to everyone, which I thought was great. And then on each of the cards you have one main keyword which is very actionable. Like this is something you can relate, you can do, that you can take into yourself as an anchor for your day-to-day. And then you also have a little meaning on the card, which means that if you don't want to go into the guidebook, you don't have to. And this is so sweet, you guys. It's sweet, it's powerful. The book is really well thought out. Like I said, there's plenty of journaling prompts, meditation, visualization to help you. This feels like a friend in a deck. It feels like it can take your hand and help you out when you're having a tough time, when you need a little hug from the universe, when you need a little pep talk from your higher self, your guides, whatever you guys believe in, but something not occult, esoteric or woo-woo, something very related to day-to-day. For all of my peeps out there who are potentially curious about oracle decks but who find a lot of the oracles are too out there, too woo-woo, you know, if you don't like working with archangels and star seeds or anything like that, not that there's anything wrong with that, obviously, you know, on my channel I always say you do you, boo. I'm not here to judge at all. We need something for everyone, but for those of you who are more practical and yet who want something that really can help them in their day-to-day, work through their feelings, a little bit more of a psychological, I would say, oracle deck, this was my favorite for that purpose this year. I found that it was really helpful to work through some big things when I'm not doing so well, when my chronic pain is flaring up, when I'm going through some tough time. It was beautiful. I've pulled cards for friends and they loved it so much they ended up buying it themselves when they were also going through tough times, grief, all of those things. This is a really beautiful companion, very gentle but useful, practical as well. Like I said, the keywords you can put in practice, right? It's not just here's your message and then what do I do with this? No, this can help you put things into practice, actionable steps to feel better, and I really loved it. It had a huge place in my practice this year, so of course it had to be part of my top 10 because I'm really grateful that this exists. I'm grateful that I have this now as one of my tools in my toolbox. I can't remember if I showed you the back, probably not, because we know I'm a bad YouTuber, so there you go. I love the backs as well. They're one of my favorite backings ever. I don't know, there's something about those little clouds that feels really soothing, which is what this deck represents. And we have hollow edges, silver hollow edges. Gorgeous. Love this one so much, so grateful it exists. The top 2, we have a tie, you guys. I couldn't choose. For me, they're equally good for different reasons. For me, they serve different purposes, but they're equally as good in my practice. We have a tie for my top 2. If you don't like it, too bad. In the tie, we have, let's start with a French mass market oracle deck. We have l'Oracle Inspiré by Émilie Dedieu. I don't think this is gonna be a surprise if you watch my videos this year because I've talked about this non-stop. This is probably my most used deck of the year in terms of decks I got in 2024 that I've used the most, because I've used this for everything. I've used this on my channel in so many pick a card readings, monthly readings and stuff like that. Here are the backs, by the way, and here are the sides. Like I said, it's mass market French, so you can get this on Amazon.fr and all of those other places that might sell French mass market decks, and I'll make sure to leave a link down below if you're curious. Like I was saying, I've used this in most of my pick a card readings, monthly readings this year since I've gotten this. If you've purchased a year ahead reading with me, most likely I've used this deck in your reading. I've used it for myself, I've used it for others. This is well loved, okay? My most used divinatory oracle deck of the year because of how easy it is for me to read. Because there's no keywords, it means that every time I pull these cards, I can see something different. And I love that. I love that I get freedom to use my intuition. I love that one day this is gonna mean something, the next it might mean something else. I love that freedom of expression, of tapping into my intuition, of tapping into my third eye chakra. There's something really liberating and fun about being able to tap into the energies of these cards without the restriction of keywords. Now I understand that for some people it's really not what they like because they like to have keywords as a starting point, but for me I find this literally like this bird flying out of the cage, liberating. So I love using this in a divinatory sense for, like I was saying, fortune telling, trying to peek through the veil, looking at the week ahead, the months ahead, the year ahead. I wanted to share it with you guys because whilst it's French, as you can see, there's no keywords on the cards. You will not be stuck by the keywords because you can make your own. And if you don't want to be left to your own devices, you do have a guidebook, and in the guidebook you have messages for each of the cards. You also have a part where you have association. So for example, this card plus this card equal this, very much like Lenormand in that sense. If you read with Lenormand, you'll be used to this idea of pairing two cards to create a third meaning. So you're not left on your own. You have a ton of spreads in there which are really great. You have meanings of the cards if you wanted to, and in the guidebook it also encourages you to write the meanings on the card, because this is the kind of paper that you could write on it and it would retain the ink. If you wanted to work with this deck but you need this structure of keywords, you're welcome to do that. Emily even encourages you to do that if you feel called to. For me, I find this kind of deck very liberating and very intuitive. It's just fluid. Like I don't have to think about it. So I love this one so much. I think the artwork obviously from Emily is gorgeous. I love this like watercolor mixed with the golden ink. It's beautiful and it's my most used, I would say, deck of 2024. In terms of oracle decks I've gotten this year, this is definitely my most used. You can even date things because you have cards related to season. You can use this for love reading, career reading, whatever. This does it all. It really deserves a spot in my top 3 for 2024. The second deck at my top 2 spot, the other one that was a tie, is a mass market oracle deck. We have the Prairie Majesty Oracle by Cara Simmons, art by Amy Putney Koenig. This is an oracle deck by, you guys, I don't even know who is the publisher. Oh, Hay House. Sorry, Hay House, but there you go. This originally was an indie deck and then it was picked up mass market, I think last year. So this has been at mass market for a while. I was just, again, very late to the party. We're used to this now. Actually, I need to thank my friend Melanie for introducing me to this, because she was like, Marine, you need to check this out. You would really like it. It would be your vibe. So if you're watching, Melanie, I'm sending you big hugs, because guess what? She was absolutely right. This is so me. This is so my vibe. This is a nature-based oracle deck, which if you may know from watching my channel, I love nature deck, I love animal decks. Working with nature is the way that I connect to spirit, source, God, whatever you want to call it. It's very important to me. This is really a fabulous deck, really well constructed, great guidebook, and so much you can do with this. So the guidebook looks like this. For each of the card, you have the name of the animal that is presented on the card. You have the messages. This is very like ecology based, I would say. It kind of explains a little bit about how the animals behave to draw meaning from that, which I really love. You know, it's relating the meaning back to the animal's behavior, specifically in the ecology of the prairie, which kind of takes you into this specific like environment where all the animals communicate and commune together. We have some prey, we have predators, so depending on what you pick, you're gonna get different meanings from that, and I love that. I love that we have the interconnectedness of all of these animals in this particular prairie environment. For me, it helps me remember that I'm part of the great web of life, that I'm connected to all the beings around me, not just humans, but also the trees outside my window, the little butterfly that might land, the chameleon that might be outside in my garden, or the bird that might land on my window. You know, it helps me remember that I am part of this great web of life, and this deck really does a good job of bringing you back to this center, I think, reminding you that you are not the center of the universe, and helping you remember as well that you're not alone. Beautiful guidebook, also really well written. I've really enjoyed what this guidebook had to say. Here are the backs. In terms of the artwork, I love hand-drawn decks. You've seen from the other decks I've shared with you today that it's an art style I really enjoy. And I love the fact that on each of the cards, you don't just have the animal, but you have a keyword, which is great. It's very expensive in terms of keywords. You know, it's an action. Every time it's like an action word. Every time it's like a verb. I think mostly it's verbs. Yeah, it's all verbs. I've just realized that. So it's an action-based kind of keyword. You know, it's like liberate, clear, stoke, things like that. And then on top of that, you have a question. And this is so great for journaling, which is the main reason why I've used this deck. For me, for journaling, which is something I really enjoy doing at night, it has been my go-to. So love those questions for journaling, really useful if you want to give yourself a little moment for introspection, for self-development, anything like that. This is great. If you love working with animals, if you love working with concepts around nature, ecology, interconnectedness, this is great. If you love having action-based keywords to do something about your reading instead of just getting guidance and then moving on, this is great. And if you also finally want to have starting points for your spread, this is great, because the way I've used this as well is I'd pull a card, look at the question, and then I would create custom tarot spreads upon that. So for example, if I pick what is mine to share, and we have like the idea of the honeybee, I would create, after pulling this card, a tarot spread around the concept of sharing. What am I not sharing enough in my life, for example? And I'd pull a tarot cards, and then I'd ask, what am I sharing too much of in my life? And then I'd pull a tarot cards, and then maybe the third one would be, how can I find the balance between the two, for example, right? I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, like making stuff up on the spot. You can see how I could use this for being the starting point for creating tarot spreads. Because of the questions on the card, there's really opportunity there for you to create custom spreads around those concepts, which is something I love doing. This is a very versatile deck. It's a very intelligent deck, well constructed, well thought out, well researched. It's a powerful deck, I think, in the sense that it really is connected to the animals, to the spirit of the prairie, to its environment, and to the correlation between all of these beings really well. I really don't have anything bad to say about this. For me, one of the best mass market decks you can get if you like specifically working with nature, or if you want something that's going to be great for journaling, creating spreads, and to help you put things into action. This is so good. And another one that I've recommended a lot ever since I've had it, that a lot of people got after seeing it, and I am glad. This deserves a lot of praise. It's really, really good. I'm super impressed. I'm so glad that this was picked up mass market so that more people can get their hands on it. And again, I'm super grateful to Melanie, if you're watching, sending you so many hugs. Thank you for introducing this to me, because I love it. This is it. Top 1. The winner of the best Oracle deck of 2024 for me. Drum rolls. I'm not sure if this is gonna be a surprise or not. If I'm gonna be honest, I knew this was the winner as soon as I got my hands on it. As soon as I got my hands on it and started working with this one, it was a no-brainer that this was truly the best Oracle deck I was gonna work with this year. And that is the Iris Oracle. This is an indie deck. It is by Mary Elizabeth Evans, who is known as Spirit Speak. There's definitely a few Spirit Speaks out there. There is the Vessel Oracle, there is the Spirit Speak Tarot. Mary is a prolific deck creator, and this one for me is truly a masterpiece. So here are the backs, and this is a deck I've been wanting you guys for years. Pretty much ever since I've gotten into Oracle decks and I found out that this existed, I wanted this. It's been a long time coming, it had been on my wish list for years. Finally this year I managed to get my hands on it, and as soon as I got my hands on it, it was a no-brainer that yes, indeed, this was going to be the best Oracle deck for me. I had been lusting after it and it did not disappoint, which that in itself is incredible, because sometimes when you've been lusting after a deck for too long, by the time you get it, sometimes it doesn't live up to the hype that you've put on it. With this though, it exceeded my expectation, if that was possible, and it truly is a deck that moved me the most, that touched my heart the most, that touched my soul the most. This deck brought me to tears a few times. It really moved me. It opened doors, you know, in my mind, in my soul. It just blew me away. This is really, really special. Now, this is not a divination deck. It's not even necessarily a self-care deck. I would say this is a quite punchy deck, maybe more so shadow worky, I would say. For the guidebook, you're gonna see it's quite chunky. For each of the cards, you have the meaning, and you can pause if you want to see how it reads. But this is a deck that has a point of view. It's a really profound deck that can help you work through some tough stuff. So the way it's written is really empowering. It's really like helping you to reclaim your power, your confidence, your worthiness, but it can help you look and it can help you work through some difficult things, specifically relating to things like people pleasing or potentially trauma, working through wounds, heartbreaks, anything like that. This is a great deck for that. Meeting your inner demons, inviting your inner demons for tea and hearing what they have to say. So is this a deck for everyone? I don't think so. I understand. First off, I know that the artwork is not going to please everyone, because it's again that kind of childlike artwork that I personally love, but that I know not everyone does. Second of all, the keywords are very unique and they're quite punchy, and the way this deck reads is very, like I said, powerful and will make you look at stuff you might not want to look at. So in that sense, if you're not ready to do the work with a big W, then this is not the deck for you. If you don't want to have to look in the mirror and meet your inner demons and invite them for tea, this is not the deck for you. But if you're willing to go deep, willing to do an introspective kind of work, you're willing to use your Oracle deck in a way that's very, like I said, like great for introspection, healing, personal empowerment, personal development, then this is stellar. It will make you cry, but also will make you laugh. It's just very, very special. And it's not even the deck I've used the most this year, because this is very intense, right? So sometimes I don't want to be like going in, taking a walk into my metaphorical basement and finding out what's hiding there. Sometimes I'm not in that mood. But when I am, and when I need help, when I need a lantern to walk in the dark, and I need a hand to accompanying me through the maze that is life, this is it for me. I have a few decks like that in my tarot collection, and this has quickly become part of my favorites for that. So it's a very powerful deck. It's a deep deck. It's not a deck for everyone, I understand that, but for me it was exactly what I wanted it to be and more, and I'm so grateful that this exists. So that's my number one, you guys, the Iris Oracle. Another one as well that has plenty of cards. I don't know if I said that, but look, 78 cards. We love that. Beautiful. So there you have it, you guys. This was my top 10 Oracle decks of 2024. Here we have my top 4. As you can see, we've had self-care decks, divination decks, shadow work decks, nature decks, mythology decks, affirmation decks. Again, we are deep in the middle of Tarot Vlogmas, so if you're not yet subscribed or if you've missed any previous videos, they're all gonna be in the description box. There's plenty of content to get you through. I am working so hard because in December I'm not watching any movies, I'm not watching any Netflix, I'm not seeing any of my friends or family. I'm glued to my desk, working, making videos, editing, to try and bring some joy to you. Now I want to hear from you. I would love to know what are your top oracle decks of 2024. You don't have to give me a top 10, obviously. You can give me a top 1, 2, or 3. What are the standout oracle decks for you this year? Until my next video, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for all your comments, all your love, all your support. I really appreciate it. Thank all these creators for all of these beautiful decks that they're putting out in the world. Thank you so much to them for sharing their work with us, for making our life a little bit brighter. Until my next video, I'm sending you so much good vibes. I'm wishing you beautiful holidays and keep navigating the waves of your soul. Bye! And the way this is written is both as an Mercury retrograde.